Heaven can wait. Heaven can wait.
Heaven can wait. 9/11, it's the link on the breeze, 93.9. Let's go right over to the KUAM News Zoom room where Casiana Reyes is standing by. Morning, Casiana.
Good morning, Chris. Morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
I know that we had you on back when it was called Containing COVID, but if you could just introduce yourself to the audience and the program you're with and the, kind of a little bit about the work you do, and then we'll just get right into why we have you on this morning.
Of course. So my name is Casiana Reyes. I'm a graduate student at the University of Guam, and I'm here in my role as a student program assistant at Pinangon Campus Suicide Prevention Program. So we're the university's suicide prevention resource facility, and we provide all the suicide prevention services to the campus community and the broader island community as well. I'm also here to let everybody know about our services at ESA Psychological Services Center. So we are the prevention program under ESA. So ESA is our main facility.
Right, and I follow you guys on Instagram, and man, it kind of got away from me that this month was Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. But I saw that you guys had started posting what I thought was a really interesting campaign, and we're going to pop the pics up while we're talking, Casiana, and it's something along the lines of "Be the One to," right? Is that the campaign that you guys have?
Yeah. So earlier this week, we launched Be the One to campaign. So we wanted to do it in time for Suicide Prevention Month, which is this month in September. And so Be the One to is actually the National Suicide Prevention Lifelines campaign that kind of gave the message to spread the word about actions people could take to prevent suicide. So last year we adapted the Be the One to campaign for the university to participate in, and now since we've launched it online, we're able to have the island community share as well. So how we adapted it was that we wanted to provide the community with ways they can prevent suicide and how they can reach out and know what the resources are in the community. But we also wanted to hear the stories of how people have prevented suicide, what they've done to reach out to someone, to help someone who is suicidal, depressed, or going through a difficult time. And so if you visit our Instagram, you'll see that our campaign has specific steps. So right. It came from the National Suicide Prevention Lifelines Be the One to campaign. So the steps are the same. Be the one to ask, be the one to keep them safe, be there, follow up, and help them connect. And that's usually what a lot of us try to do. We try to be there for people, ask the question, and know what the resources are out there so that people can get the help they need, especially during this time. So we wanted to engage the community in this conversation because in the last couple months, and especially in the last couple weeks, it's been really challenging for the island. The cases have been rising. The stay-at-home order is a lot more strict than usual than before. So I know that many, many people are going through so many challenges, so many difficulties. And so we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're available. Resources are available for anybody who needs them. And so Pinangon and ESA Psychological Services Center are one of them.
So are you guys seeing, when we spoke with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, they were talking about how they went from just like 30 calls a month to 500, 600 calls a month since the second surge. Is it something that you guys have seen too as well? A lot of people reaching out to you guys?
Yes, ever since the pandemic in March, and especially in the last few weeks, we found that many people are seeking services, seeking counseling services, psychological services, and just some sort of support during this time. We find that people have a lot of worries, concerns, lots of fears with the pandemic and the cases, and everyone's concerned about the health and well-being of their family. And so we've seen many people seeking services with us too.
Casiana, I wanted to go to some of the graphics that we popped up here. And on you guys' Instagram, there's one, be the one to ask. If you think someone might be considering suicide, take the first step and be the one to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself? You also have be the one to keep them safe. If you ask someone if they're thinking about suicide and they say yes, take the second step and be the one to keep them safe, separate them from anything they're thinking of using to hurt themselves. It also goes on, be the one to be there. If someone you know is thinking about suicide, take the third step and be the one to be there. Listen to the reasons for feeling hopeless and in pain. listen with compassion and empathy, but without judgment. And I wanted to ask, because it kind of seems like everybody that I know is just struggling dealing with this pandemic, with the lockdown. Like you just said, there's just so many aspects from, I'm right, we could die, we could get COVID. People are getting evicted, they can't pay their bills, people are struggling, you know. So it kind of seems like a fine line from talking to people who are just struggling with this and differentiating those people when you talk to them from other folks who are having just a harder time and thinking about a suicide. So I think it's really key to reach out and not just talk to people and check on them, but also to listen to what they have to say, right?
Yes, of course, because I think like right now it's people know that, oh, you have to stay positive, you have to like self-care, but it's also important to know, to hear people's stories and give them that sense of understanding that they're being heard, because a lot of people are experiencing different types of emotions. So it's not just, we're not just focusing on suicide and suicide prevention, but many people are feeling anxious, they're feeling scared, depressed, they're very lonely and isolated. And so hearing their stories and just seeing where they're coming from, hearing where they're coming from is the most important part of all, because you can say anything you want, but if someone doesn't feel heard, it's probably not helpful either. So just being there and asking and just being so immersed in their stories is the most important thing.
What's the age group of the people that are calling? Is it just a wide range of people? Are we talking about little kids or older Manamco that are calling?
That's a good question. We serve a wide range. We serve the whole age, all different ages. So we have parents calling in for children. We have adolescent-centered therapy for teenagers that want to talk. We also serve adults, so not just the students at the university, faculty, staff, and their families, but adults from the community. We have different ages, so old and young. We have families coming in, so all our services are still, we try to keep them as accessible and convenient for everybody during this time. So we make it available by phone, we have video sessions, and we have text sessions, because we know that children also need someone to talk to, teenagers need someone to talk to, and sometimes the best form of communication for that age group is texting. So we try to adapt the different types of services during this time, because nobody's able to come in right now. Right. And so it's been helpful for many people that have come to our center.
Can we just give out the numbers real quick, Casiana? And how people can get a hold of you and work together, because we're getting some comments on that, and then we'll get back into it.
Of course. So, wait. Oh, you want me to give the contact information?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can reach us at ESA at 735-2883. You can also email us at esa@triton.uog.edu. So all our services are supportive, client-centered, confidential, and free of charge. And this is not only for the university community, but the broader island community as well. So if anyone is needing services, you don't need to worry about anybody knowing about your services or paying any sort of fee. So everything is free and confidential. And so we have a wonderful team of counselors that are available and ready to serve the community.
Casiana, I wanted to ask, as someone and with the groups you're with, you guys are right on the front line, right, of this suicide issue. So when you see the numbers and they're high, and it's because of this pandemic, at what point do we say that it's a crisis?
That's a good question. I think it's always important to think about too, because the numbers in the last couple of years and even now, they're pretty concerning, because suicide is a big issue here in our island. And I think that it is something, it's always been a crisis. Right. And we've always tried to advocate for that and let people know, because it is important to talk about it. And we don't really talk about it a lot. And so it needs to be a normal part of the conversation too. Like, it's normal to feel scared and feel these overwhelming feelings, feeling really, really down, and even feeling suicidal. And so it doesn't help when we try to push it aside or keep silent about it. So I think just starting the conversation can help with that crisis too.
Casiana, can you share with us? I guess you said that you guys receive phone calls and from various age groups. Could we just start with the children? What are some of the stories that they're sharing with you about what they're experiencing and what they're scared of? And then what do you tell them?
So in the last couple months, we know that all the schools have been having classes from home. All the kids and all the teenagers have been at home and doing their classes online. And so that's not always easy. That's the same thing for our university campus. Our students, both from elementary all the way to college, they need that support. They need that camaraderie with their classmates and with their friends. And so just being stuck at home is not always helpful for some students. They, just like all of us adults, they find it lonely too. It can be very overwhelming. And so they need somebody to talk to. They need that support. And so it's similar worries and concerns that we all have as adults. Mm-hmm. Children and teenagers and university students are feeling the exact same way.
Right. We had a comment here from Bev, who writes, is there any information or guidelines to help us kind of ask or recognizing signs for those that just don't show any, or those who don't speak out for help?
That's a good question. There are those cases where sometimes we're never really sure what's going on because someone's really good at hiding those signs, that we're always like trying to focus on all these warning signs. But I think that's where be the one to be there and ask and keep safe and just following up with someone, even if it seems like everything's okay. Because even when things are going well, we still want people to know how we're doing, and we still want to be there for people. So just because things are good doesn't mean you don't need to ask how someone's doing. Like, right. How are you? How is everything going?
What would your advice be to parents? You know, I got a 17-year-old son, and you know, and talking with a lot of my peers who are also parents of like teen kids, there's a point where they go from like being your child, your kid, to like they're in that in-between phase where they're becoming young adults, where, you know, maybe dad is not as cool as he used to be. But I think a lot of parents struggle in trying to keep those lines of communication open, and it's every parent's worst fear to not, have that relationship with their kids where their kids can say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Hey, this is what's going on with me. So how important is it for parents to have that conversation? And I do it with my oldest son, and it was awkward. It was like he turned that corner, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay with you? And he's like, yeah. Why? But you're right. You got to be the one to ask, because you never know who's suffering in silence, and it could be your own family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. A lot of kids and a lot of teenagers have a different way of communicating, so they're not as vocal. They don't speak up as much. So I have younger brothers, and then my sister has kids, and we see that with our clients too, with the teenagers and the kids. And so sometimes it doesn't have to be straight up. It just requires a lot of patience. And so it's not even just asking sometimes too. It's just kind of giving that presence that you're there, and if you ever need to talk, so it doesn't just have to be like out of nowhere, like, oh, are you okay? So. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it'll come naturally. It should come naturally, so that it doesn't feel as like in their face. Yeah,
it's just different nowadays. I mean, when I was a kid, there was just absolutely no privacy. I mean, my mom could go in my diary. She knew everything that was going on with me because she was a single mom who was just, and had to be. And I was a troubled kid, right? But it's kind of different now. Like, I mean, sometimes I do reach that point where I just want to like snatch my boy's phone and be like, what the hell's going on in here? But you kind of want to respect those boundaries. In order to let them grow with kind of the confidence that they need to navigate this crazy world that was crazy even before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now more than ever with students, with kids and people going to school, we need to be very patient with them. They need a lot of patience, because for those that didn't have classes that suddenly went up online, it's not easy for them. It's very, very difficult, and it's probably one of the main challenges that people are facing. So elementary school students, middle school, high school, college students, the transition to online world is not easy. It's really not.
What are some of the questions that you ask, or some of the things that you tell your callers?
What did you say? Sorry.
What are some of the questions that you ask or tell your callers?
We just ask them like how they're doing. We always do check-ins about the pandemic, because we find that especially in the last few months, in the last few weeks, a lot of the worries and the concerns that people are coming in for is because of COVID-19, whether it's financial issues, worry about the health and well-being of their families, the stresses about transitioning to online learning. Lots of people are struggling with their jobs, like they're either being laid off or reduced hours, or they just have to take a break from their job because of the pandemic. Even just being an essential worker is very, very difficult to deal with as well. So there's so many different reasons that people are coming in.
Casiana, can you take us through the 5 action steps that are part of this program? Communicating with someone who may be suicidal.
Okay.
This is
so,
on the Be the One to website.
Okay. So we have a few steps that we got from the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline campaign. So be the one who has the following steps. So be the one to ask if you think someone might be considering suicide or is feeling down, or if you think they're going through a difficult time, or it just like they seem like they haven't really been talking about what's going on. Take the first step to ask. So not just are you thinking about killing yourself, but how are you doing? What's going on? Do you want to talk? So it could be any question. We phrased it in a way where it matches suicide and suicide prevention. And so the next step is to keep them safe. And so if you ask someone if they're thinking about suicide and they say yes, take the second step and be the one to keep them safe. Separate them from anything they're thinking of using to hurt or kill themselves. And keeping them safe doesn't mean just taking away the means that they're going to use to hurt or kill themselves, but just being there. Don't leave someone alone. We find that the best form of suicide prevention is just being there for someone multiple times. It's not just one session a week, but we're able to text our clients like once or twice a day and check in with them. We can have multiple calls, and I think that's probably the most convenient thing for many people right now is that we're a lot more available through telehealth. So keeping them safe means staying connected with them and checking in on them, not just once, but multiple times. And people appreciate that. The next step is to be the one to be there. If someone is thinking about suicide or is going through a difficult time, take the third step and be there. Listen to their reasons for feeling hopeless and in pain. Listen with compassion and empathy, but without judgment. And that's especially true because you want your feelings to be validated. You want your story to be heard. And when someone kind of gives you like a moral reasoning, like, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or you're so lucky, I don't know why you're feeling this way, it's not helpful. So just being open to listening without judgment is very, very important, and being empathetic, because even though we're doing services through phone and video and text, you can still get the sense if someone doesn't really care, if they're not really listening. So being there is very important too. And then be the one to follow up. If someone tells you they've been thinking about suicide, or they told you that they are going through a difficult time, don't forget to follow up, because it can make a difference. And that's what I said earlier about checking in more than once. Like if you can, text them every day, text them, like it doesn't have to be like the whole day, but just showing them that you're available and just because they told you the story a couple of days ago doesn't mean it's not a concern for you now. So just being there and following up. And then finally, just helping them connect. So know what the resources are available in the community. East Psychological Services Center is one of them. Pinangon Campus Suicide Prevention is one of them. And we have the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, BOMS 24-hour crisis hotline. Just knowing what is available during this time is especially important, because many people think that everything is closed, but we're still here. We're still here to serve the community. And so if anybody ever needs to talk, we have counselors ready to do that.
Thank you, Casiana. Just one last question here. Joe writes in, if you know someone who's depressed, may need help, can we call your office to have you call them?
Yes, of course. We can always work out a plan to reach out to that person. So we have people, in the past, and even up to now, we have university professors and staff reaching out to us and saying that they're concerned about a student. We have friends calling in for their friends. And so we work with those people to reach out and serve that person that needs help.
Well, thank you, Casiana. We're gonna we got Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, Dr. Christiana Whitman coming up right after you. So I just really wanted to bring you on and kind of reintroduce the work that you guys are doing to the community. I know we touched base back in containing COVID, but this thing just won't end. So.
Hey, Chris. Oh, okay.
Yes, Jay.
And Casiana, I just wanted to pass a message along to you because obviously there are a lot of people watching you now live on Facebook who are greatly appreciating your information and the fact that you are so learned in this topic and you care so much. One person in particular, and you probably see where I'm going with this, from the Agana Heights Mayor's office is saying, Jason, that's my daughter Casiana. Please let her know her mom is, and then in all caps, so hey, look at that. Is so proud of her. And then she uses every single emoji which could be considered a positive emoji. She's got the heart, the prayer, and then the smiley face with all the hearts around it and everything like that. So you have made your family incredibly proud, and what you do for the community is amazing work. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you. My mom's my biggest fan.
Right on. Thank you,
Way to
Casiana.
go.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Stay home. Okay.
She beats you to it.
Yeah, she did. 9:32. It's the link on the Breeze 93.9. We're going to take a